Hi, welcome to my Parametry model drawing preview. All right, now today I would like to talk to you about what is this preview about. So, but before that, I would like to let you know that who am I? Okay, I'm Lawrence Ong, right, the speaker for this preview, and I'm also the founder of Max Learning Groups. So this Max Learning Groups is like a tutoring service that is catered to help the primary school children, right, the primary 3 to primary 6 students. So I focus on primary school math. So I teach them math. So like heuristics, like how to use the different kinds of heuristics to solve their problems. So that's how I started these math learning groups to conduct my math lessons. Okay, so I'll be the speaker for this very short preview. So it's about, I think, 1 hour, and I think we may not take 1 hour. It could be lesser than that. Okay, so more about myself. So who exactly am I? Okay, I'm not a celebrity. Okay, I'm just a normal person. Okay, so I was an ex-school teacher, right? Ex-school teacher with more than 10 years of experience. So I taught in MOE primary schools from 2000 to 2010. And I was, of course, I'm NIE trained. I mean, we all went to NIE to get our training to be teachers. So I was trained to teach English, math, and science at primary school level. But of course, when we went to primary schools, we teach everything, right? Everything we also we also teach everything. But I'm more qualified to teach English, math, and science. All right, we went through the proper training, right, to learn how to conduct lessons, right, on these 3 subjects. And later on during my primary school years, I also got trained to be a PE teacher, right? So I'm also a qualified PE teacher, right? So one of my interests is actually to conduct PE lesson, and the PE subject is something that all students will like. All right, they will never fall asleep. All right, they will want to come and attend the lessons, unlike all the other academic subjects where they don't find the interest. So PE lesson is something that they always look forward to. Okay, now, so I resigned. Okay, after 10 years at MOE schools, I resigned in 2010, and I worked for My Structured Learning Center. I was there for 2010 to 2016. So I was actually teaching at their branches in the West area, right? So because they have a lot of branches, so I actually teach more in the West, right? So what do I teach? Mainly math and science. So again, it's primary school students, right? I'm teaching primary school students and primary 3 to primary 6. All right, but once in a while, I also teach the primary 2 students once in a while. But basically, my pool of students that I teach over there is mainly P3 to P6. And then in the year 2016, I resigned. Okay, I set up my own teaching service, and I call it Max Learning Groups, MLGS. So until now, right? Until now, I'm still teaching I'm teaching in these Max Learning Groups because I'm the founder, right? So I focus on teaching heuristic methods. And of course, I also teach concepts understanding, right? Concepts and basics, right? So, but my focus is mainly on the heuristics, on how to use the methods. What are the methods out there? And how to use these methods to solve different kinds of problems. And these methods are familiar, right? Familiar in the school setting. So most of the methods the teachers are also using, right? They are teaching those methods in schools. Okay, so that's about me, right? About me. All right, so let's talk about what is this preview about. Now, the whole idea, why am I doing this thing, is to actually tell you what I am passionate about. I'm passionate about model drawing, all right, because model drawing is one of the methods that's very commonly used. It's also a very big method. It is a method that's taught in schools, so nobody can say they don't know this method. And it is a very big method because it can be used to solve many problems at primary 2 to primary 6 levels. Can be used to solve many problems. Yeah. So the objective of my preview, right, or of the workshops which I'll be doing in the next week, right, is to let you see that when you understand what is model drawing, you can actually draw out the problem, right, the whole problem, and use the model to solve more effectively, right? So I don't know about your perception of what model drawing is like, but the whole idea of what model drawing is, right, is just summarized in one point. Draw out the problem, right? And then after you draw out the problem already, you use the model which represent the problem, which means that you don't need to look at the problem because it's the model that has become the problem, and use the model to pull out the steps, right? To work out the steps. And when you do that, you actually solve the problem more effectively and less thinking, right? You use less thinking and less time, right? So like what I mentioned just now, once you have drawn the model, there is no need to look at the question. So that is the whole gist, right? The whole idea of what model drawing is like. Okay, yep. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, there'll be a QA session at the end of it. All right, at the end of this short review, I will open to the floor. All right, any questions you want to ask, just feel free to ask. But now, now I have to tell you everything first. Then later on, you can ask me whatever you want. Okay, so what is the profile of students who are not trained to draw models? Now, in my years of experience teaching students, even though they learn model drawing in schools, but I find that their model drawing is not quite up there yet, not quite up to a certain expectation, because their model are very simple, right? Very basic, and they still can't use the model that they are drawn to solve the problem. Now, why is that so? Now, okay, they are not able to draw good models because firstly, they don't like to draw model. And why they don't like to draw model is because of they don't know how, right? They didn't receive enough technical knowledge to know how to draw the model, and there is not enough practice. So in primary schools, teachers draw model, but they kind of, I mean, I'm speaking from my personal point of view as an ex-school teacher. So we use the model drawing as an end product to show them how to get the answer, but we don't actually guide them how to draw out the model, right? And we also show them the model drawing at very young levels. Very primary 2 level, we teach them parts whole comparison. Primary 3, we also draw a model. And then somehow along the way, we stop already. We stop drawing the model already because they find that, well, it's getting too hard to draw. So we stop drawing the model and we do something else. But actually, you can continue to draw the model for even harder problems. So this is the part where primary school students, they don't have enough knowledge to continue to build their model. So their model is quite simple. And also they lack the practice, right? They don't practice enough to draw the model. Now, what happened when these students, right, they can't draw the model or they don't like to draw the model, then what do? Then they will try to use their own capability, their own thinking, right? Their own brain, okay, their own intelligence to try to solve the problem in their own way. Now, when they do that, what happened is they they will need to think more. Okay, they must think more, right? And they also take more time to solve the problem. And when you do that, it's very abstract. When you try to solve in your mind without any methods, you find that it's very hard because all the steps are in your mind. You have to keep track of what you are doing in your mind. So there's no visual representation of what you are doing. It's all in your mind. So the danger is you lose track of what you're doing and then you get lost, right? As you try to solve the problem. So when they do that, they get confused, right? The last point, they get confused in what they are doing and then they solve wrongly. So this is the profile of my students. I'm sure you can relate to this kind of students, right? If you are teaching your child or if you are tutors who are teaching your students, you find that they try to do their own way. They try to solve in their own way. They don't have any methods. They rely on their own capability. And then as a result, they get confused, right? Because they got lost in their thoughts. Yeah. So this is what I feel, all right, what I see in my students. Okay. Now, so how does the model drawing helps us, right? How does it help us? It provides a very structured approach to how to use the model. Okay, like in schools, we always tell the students, right? For math teachers, we tell them you have to read the whole question, right? Which is important to understand what the story is, understand what is it talking about, and then of course then you choose, right? Choose your heuristics, choose your method, which is the best suitable for this kind of problem. What is your best method that you want to use? And of course, if you know how to solve already, then you don't have to apply any methods. So if you don't know how to solve, then you think, all right, so I can use model, for example. All right, so once you decided to use model, then how do you go about using the model? How do you use the model method? Then we will tell them, okay, or I will tell them, all right, there's an approach here. All right, there's a process that you must go through. You need to break the problem down, okay, by drawing out the sentences one by one. Yeah, so model drawing is not trying to draw out the whole problem at one time, at the same time. You draw out the sentences one by one, right? That's the first step, right? And of course, any sentence you can't draw, you jump to the next sentence, and you draw from the beginning to the end. Okay, as you are doing that, then you also add what? You also add the important numbers that you see in the problem. You also add things like question mark, labels, right? All these are, I call it elements, right? The elements of model drawing. So you put that into your model to bring some life, okay? Make your model a bit lively, right? A bit more clear. Okay, once you have done all these things already, right? So you can see there's an approach there. Model drawing does have an approach. And once you have completed your model, then you what? You look at the model that you have drawn and you pull out the steps from the model, right? So the model is the question. The model represents the question, and you look at the model and you pull out the steps without even having to look at the question again. So when you do all this, what happens? There is less confusion and you take less time to solve. So there is a structured approach when you draw a model. It's not vague, right? It's not vague, right? There's okay, like first thing you must do, then second thing you must do, and so on. So it's very structured when you do model drawing. So it helps students to organize their thoughts, right? They don't get hazy, right? They don't get vague about what to do when they apply this method. Right, so this is why model drawing helps, especially the students who are weaker, right? They need to see something. So when they can see something, it's easier for them compared to those students who have to, everything is in their head, everything is all in their mind. It's very cloudy, very hard to keep track of their steps. Okay, now let me show you a simple parametry problem, right? A simple parametry question, and it is a parametry problem, and we think it's very easy. Yeah, it's actually a bit easy, quite easy for most of us. But what I want you to see is the time taken for you to think about how to get the steps, the time taken for you to solve the problem, right? And when you take more time, it means that you're thinking a bit more already. And is that good? Well, there's nothing about good or bad over here, but because exam has a certain time, right? You don't have a lot of time to solve everything. So you want to reduce the time taken to solve the problem. So I'm going to show you without the model, what happens when we don't use model and we depend on our own self, our own thinking. All right, there are a total of 560 children, right? 60 children at the playground, right? So you highlight the important words. That's what we always tell the students, right? When you read the problem, you must highlight. There are 80 fewer boys than girls. Okay, so how many girls are there? Okay, so now for a primary 3 student, you must understand that how they think and how we think are different. So those of us who are teaching students, our children, you cannot expect them to understand what you are doing, right? Because they're still primary 3. You are very much more experienced, more qualified than them. So you have to go down to their level. So without the model method, this is how I used to teach last time. All right, I will tell them, what's your first step? What do you do? Is it plus, minus, divide, or times? Then they think and still don't know, right? Or sometimes they will tell you, maybe 560. I think 560 minus 80. Now I'm using my own experience to tell you what I did last time. All right. And so we tell them, okay, what's the first step? First step is, okay, minus. Then I will ask them last time, okay, when I was a bit much younger, a younger tutor, then I will tell them, why do you minus? And then they think, and then they cannot explain why they minus also. Okay, then after that, what's the next step? The next step will be 480 and then divide by 2. And then I'll ask them, why? Why do you say divide by 2? Then they think and still cannot explain. And then after that, what happened? What's the next step again? Is this the final answer? Then they are confused. They don't know how to continue already. They get lost. Yeah, so this is how we teach our children, right? How we teach our students, right? Like, it's very funny, right? When we do this way, like we expect them to know how to do, but actually they don't know what they are doing. So how does model drawing help over here? Now it draws out the entire problem for them to see more clearly. So I'm going to erase everything, and we're going to use the model to show them. Okay, show them how to pull out the steps. So when you draw the model, you don't solve. There are a total of 560 children at the playground. So you don't, if you don't know how to draw the sentence, you jump. So there are 80 fewer boys than girls. So in primary schools, they learn how to draw something called comparison model. So the boys are fewer and the girls more, okay? There are more girls. So there's a longer rectangle for the girls and you must label. Okay, so these are called elements of model drawing. You have labels to put on your model. Otherwise, your model is useless. We don't understand what your model is talking about, right? You need to label. And there are 80 fuel. You can put outside, you can put inside, it's up to you. And there are a total of 560 children. All right, so there's no solving over here. It's about understanding how to draw, understanding the basic of model drawing and use the basic to draw the problem. And then you need to have a question mark. How many girls are there? So question mark. Okay, you can put outside, or you can also put, you can put inside or you can put outside. So it's very flexible. If you find that you put inside and then you don't like it, you can always take out, erase, and put outside. And that is your model drawing. All right, so at this point of time, am I solving? I am not solving. I'm just drawing out the sentences one by one. Okay, all right, so once you are done that, what is a good model? Now, how do I know your model is very good? When you don't need to look at the question, and you just look at your model, and you should be able to solve already, right? So you look at the model, and the school teacher will have told them, okay, so you need to cut. Okay, you need to cut the longer part, which is the 80 more. Cut it, right? Cut it, and when you cut it, you will see two boxes that look equal, and they are equal. What do you call them? You call them units, right? In Parametry, we teach them something like this, right? When you see boxes that look identical, they are called units. Okay, so when you cut something out of the model, what will happen to the total? The total will become smaller, right? It makes sense, right? You cut the model becomes smaller, then your total becomes smaller. So your 2 unit, after you cut away the 80, you have 2 units left. And the total will become smaller by 80. Yeah, that's what we teach our students. So you pull out the steps from the model, and we call these steps unit statements. Okay, yeah, I think it's quite familiar to those of us who are in schools, right? And you teach something like that. And then you do your working on the right side, and 2 unit is 480. And you can see that from this step, the next step is easy to know, right? What is the next step? You automatic, no need to think, you find 1 unit without having to think what is the next step. So the next step is to find 1 unit. You take 480 and divide by 2. And you will get 240. And do I need to think about the next step? Think very hard what to do next. You look at the model and what's the question mark? The question mark is to find how many girls are there, right? And you just take 1 unit plus 80. So your 240 plus 80, and that's how you get how many girls, which is 320. See? So what's the difference between this way of doing and the way that I did just now without the model drawing? You find that everything is all inside the model. Of course, you need to draw well. You need to draw the model completely, and you will find that you don't have to work out the steps in your mind. You don't have to, you don't have to think very hard. Of course, you still must think, you still must think, but the effort to think is not so much there because it's all inside the model, right? It makes it easier, more efficient to solve the problem, right? So I hope I can let you see. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. All right. So this is a Parametry problem. Maybe for most of us, well, without the model, okay, we can solve. But always remember, our kids, our Parametry students are not like us, right? What we think is simple, maybe 1,000 times harder for them, maybe very hard for them. So we always have to go down to their level and teach in a way where they can understand at their own level, at their level. All right, so remember that. Okay, now how about a Primary 5 problem? It gets harder already because when you go to Primary 5, what happened? School teachers, tutors, school teachers, then they stop drawing the model because it gets hard to draw. Okay, there's nothing wrong about that because there are other ways to do this problem, right? You don't have to draw model all the time. All right, there could be other methods, and choose the best method. Choose the method that is more efficient. That's why you need to know. You need to know some methods so that you can always choose something that is better for this problem. Okay, but when the problem gets too hard, what happened? Then you find that the model, we don't really draw the model because we don't know how to draw. Right, we get confused. We don't know how to draw. We don't have the technical knowledge, and then we do something else. And the worst thing that we can do is we go back to our our first way of doing. We use our brain to try to solve. Yeah, there is nothing wrong about that. But when you try to use your brain to solve, what happens? You get confused again, right? It's harder for the weaker students to understand. So my solution to this is continue to draw your model, learn to draw the model. So let me show you, okay? Let me show you this question, and I will show you how to draw out this problem very effectively and also easily. I mean, it's not very hard to draw this problem. Of course, you need to know the technical knowledge before you can even draw this problem. So I'll show you later. But let's read. Now, at the concert, 3/8 of the adults were men, 7/9 of the men, and 3/5 of the women did not wear spectacles. There were 5 to 8 adults who wore spectacles. So how many adults were there? Now, if it's after reading already, you find it's so confusing, right? It's so even hard. I mean, it's even hard. It's quite hard to solve this problem. There are three fractions there, and fractions does cause some students to be very very afraid because they are not good with fractions. All right, now without the model, okay, without the model, I'm going to show you partial. I'm going to show you something over here without the model. What will students do, right, without the model? Now, they will try to do something like this. I'm not going to go through everything. Just to show you usually what my students will do. They will do 8/8 minus 3/8 and 5/8, right? This is what you will do, right? In our own, using our own capability, because the man is 3/8, the women is 5/8, right? That's the first step. And then 7/9 of the men did not wear spectacle. All right, so what do we do? Then those who are able to solve, those who are a bit more capable, they will understand that 7/9 is not the actual fraction of the men who did not wear spectacle. They have to take 7/9 times the man, and the man is 3/8. All right. So this is the next step that they should be doing. For those students who are confused, all right, they are not sure, what they will do is they will take 7/9 and then go and minus. Okay, go and minus what? Minus the 3/8 to get something. That is wrong already. Okay, but we are not going to go into why is it wrong. Okay, because my point here is to show you how model can solve this problem better. So you can see that you have to think like that. You have to think step by step. And there's a lot of abstract thinking. And then you have to find 3/5 of the women did not wear spectacles. So what is 3/5 of the women? That is 3/5 times the women. So the women is how many? The women is 5/8. And then you get something also lah. All right, something, right? And then you have to go to the next step, and then go to the next step. And as you keep solving, what happened? You don't be surprised if you get confused when you keep solving. I think you get lost already. Oh, what should I do next? That's when the problem comes. So when you do it this way, what happened? You lose your train of thoughts because everything is all done in the mind, right? In the mind. So it doesn't help the weaker students if you do this way, right? Of course, there's a method called branching method. Branching, that is also a good method that you can use. But without any methods, you'll be doing something like this. And this is not a very effective way to solve because, like what I said, you are confused, right? You lose your thoughts, right, as you are solving. So I'm going to use the model method, and I'm going to show you that you can prevent all this confusion. Okay, so let's try again, and let's read the problem, and let's draw out the problem. Okay, it's like what I mentioned, you have to draw out sentence by sentence, right? So 3/8 of the adult. This fraction is talking about the adults. Okay, yep. All right, so you draw a rectangle for the adults and cut into the denominator, which is total 8 boxes. Okay, so there are 8 boxes of adults and 3 boxes were men. So you label. And the rest label must be women. So it's important that you label, because if you don't label, there's no clarity in the model. All right, otherwise your model will be useless. If we don't know what the boxes represent, it's useless. Okay, so you draw the first sentence already. Then you go to the next one, right? The next sentence, because model drawing is about drawing sentence by sentence. Okay, now 7/9 of the men. So now the fraction is talking about the men. So you go to your model, right? No solving here. Just go to your model and look for the men. There are 3 boxes of men, and you have to cut into 9. So 3, 3, and 3. Yeah. And then 7 boxes did not wear spectacles. So you label 7 boxes did not wear spectacles. And of course, you have to label the other two boxes. Otherwise, if you don't label the other two boxes, later you look at your model and you also get a bit lost, right? A bit confused. So you label. These two boxes of men, they wear spectacles, right? And what is model drawing? It is also to make them all equal. When you draw a model, you cannot have, you don't have like something like that, small boxes, big boxes. So what do? You try to cut them equally. So we cut every big box into 3 smaller ones. Okay, got it? So now all the boxes are equal. All right, then you go to the next fraction, 3/5 of the women. So now we are talking about the women. The third fraction is talking about the women. So the women must have five boxes, right? 5 boxes. Okay, so how do I do that? So if you look carefully, you can see that there are already 5 boxes already. Yep, right, there are already 5 boxes. Okay, 5 groups, or let me call it 5 groups, or 5 bigger boxes lah, 5 groups. And 3 groups did not wear spectacle. All right, label 3 groups did not wear spectacle. And the other 2 groups of women wore spectacle. So what am I doing? Am I solving? Am I thinking about the steps on how to solve? I'm not. I'm not thinking about the steps on how to solve. I'm just drawing out the sentence, right? Okay, there were 5 to 8 adults who wore spectacle. Okay, now model drawing is very creative. It's very creative. It all depends on your creativity, right? Everybody all draws differently. So where do I put the 5 to 8 adults who wear spectacle? Well, I can do something like this, right? It's really up to you. How you want to be creative, it's just up to you lah. See the 2 ticks, right? The 2 ticks, right? I just put 528. As long as you don't have a messy model. Your model cannot be ugly, cannot be untidy. If it's untidy, messy, then your model drawing is also useless because you are confused by your messy model, right? So always try to draw tidy, be tidy in your drawing, and be neat. All right, and if you make a mistake, you can always adjust, or always erase. But don't go and scribble, right? Don't go and do this. Don't go and do this in your model. It's very terrible. It makes everything harder to see. Okay, so what do? Every box is cut, right? All the units, all the boxes are the same. So I call them 1 unit each. Okay, 1 unit. All right, all the boxes are called units inside. Okay, so where am I now? I draw until here already. So am I solving yet? No, I'm not solving yet. I'm still drawing. So how many adults were there at the concert? So there is an important element, which is the question mark, which I will use, right? And that is the question mark. That is what we want to find. How many adults are there? And the model is done. The model is done. So am I solving? Am I thinking of the steps? No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not thinking of the steps. Okay, so the model is done already. So like what I said, what is a good model? Now, a good model is something where you don't need to look at the question. You just look at the model, which represent the question, pull out the steps. All right, you pull out the steps. All right, to do that, of course, you also must have the technical knowledge on how to draw. Because if you can draw, you can pull out the steps already. Yeah. So I cannot expect somebody who doesn't know how to draw to know how to pull out the steps also. You must know how to draw first, and then you will be able to pull out the steps. So you look at the model. I'm not looking at the question now. You look at the model, you can see that there are 2 units, okay? 2 units of men, okay, who wear spectacles, and there are 6 units of women who wear spectacles. So you plus them together, 6 unit plus 2 unit, 8 unit. You pull out the steps, and we call it unit statements. And these 8 units will be the total, which is 5 to 8. So what's the next step? Must I think very hard on what's the next step? No, I find 1 unit. So 5 to 8 divide by 8. Okay, now hopefully I don't get a funny decimal. Okay, you divide, you get a remainder, something wrong already, something wrong with your steps or your drawing. So 5 to 8 divided by 8, I'm going to use my calculator, so can cheat a little bit. So 5 to 8 divided by 8, you have to write proper sentence. Divide by 8, you get 1 unit, 66. Okay, what's the next step? Must I think hard on the next step? No, I look at the question mark, which is to find the total, right? How many units altogether? So how many units are there? I need to count. So you have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. I think there are 24 units. Okay, so 24 units will be how many? So 24 units will be 66 times 24. Yep. And you will get 1,500 584 adults. And that's how you solve, right? That's how you solve the problem using the model method. Okay, so when you come for the workshop, or rather before we talk about that, now in schools, we need to teach them something like this in schools. I'm sure the school teachers are doing that already. All right, but we don't really focus on that very much, because I understand that we need to rush the syllabus, because I was a school teacher. So we don't really spend time to guide them how to draw out the problem. So that's why I'm here to really stand in the gap, here to really help everybody, so that when they can draw the model, and then when they go back to school, it's easier for the teachers, right? And they will understand, right? They were easier for the teachers to know, to teach them, right? And the students also know how to draw the model, and they can solve the problem, right? It works for everybody. Everybody all happy. Yeah. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to show you, why model is effective. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next one, and common questions that everyone asks, right? Or I hear from parents quite often. Must students draw model for everything? Now, if you draw a model for everything, you're going to have a very boring maths life, a very boring life, because model is actually, I also feel very bored to draw model all the time. So always try to learn other things, okay? Learn new methods of solving. Don't rely on model, because what happens if I can't draw the problem? Like when you go to P5, P6, you can't draw the problem, what happens? Then your hope, I mean your line, your help line, the only help line that you have is gone already. So you need to have a few help lines, right? I can't draw model, then can I use something else? Yeah, and that's why you need to know other alternatives, which is number 2, right? How to use other methods if you cannot draw the problem, right? So what kind of methods are out there? Heuristics. What kind of heuristics? You have things like working backwards, right? Working backwards, guess and check. But actually guess and check, guess and check. You also have systematic listing, right? And some others lah. Okay, so we will talk about all this in our heuristic workshops. And also there are other methods that schools haven't, or schools did not teach, right? If you go to other tuition centers, it's very interesting, right? And I always like to learn new things. So you will find that tuition centers outside of schools, they do have their methods also, right? Even though it may not be similar to what schools are doing, could be a little bit different, but they are very interesting methods. So it's up to the students to explore which one is best suitable for them. Then you tell me, then will they all get confused, since there are so many methods out there, right? Will they get confused? Well, now, it's like a double-edged sword. When you have many methods out there, right? Many things to learn, right? Schools teach some methods, and then outside you have some new things to learn. Will they get confused? Well, the good thing is it gives your student, or it gives your child, a variety, right? It's like a buffet. They can choose what they want, right? They can choose whatever they want, and then they choose which method they like, and they use it, because all the methods out there taught by my tutor friends, all right? Like you have the max method, you have some other methods. They are actually very good, right? Very good for to solve problems. So it all depends on whether your child is able to understand lah. If your child is able to understand, then use the method. Whether it's this method or that method, use it and solve the problem. But also be aware of other things that they can use. Okay, so that's a good thing about knowing more methods. Yeah, they may get a little bit confused, so they have to choose, right? They have to understand and choose what is the best method they want to use. Okay, all right. So the third point is, what happens if my student or my child has drawn the model but still cannot solve? Now, there are some common reasons. The first one is their model is not complete. Like if you don't have everything inside, your model is like a bit useless, because I can't use your model to solve. You have to put all the key information into your model. Then you'll be able to write out some steps already. Even if you can't get the answer, you should be able to get some meta marks, right? And also why they can't solve, maybe they draw the model wrongly, right? Somehow they draw wrongly lah. That's why they cannot solve, right? Okay, now marks awarded for model drawing. Okay, now this is marks are not really awarded for model drawing. It's just a method, but the marks are given when you have the steps. When you write out the statements, you get the meta marks. But in my lessons, I will give marks for model. Is to encourage them to draw model, right? So you don't get 0 marks if you draw model. But in schools, I think PSLE, I don't think we give marks for model. We want to look at your steps. We want to look at your steps and then award the marks based on your steps. Okay, that's what we do when we mark the PSLE papers. But now maybe times have changed already lah. I'm not so sure. Right, I was a PSLE marker quite many years back. So maybe now times have changed. But based on my experience as a marker, we look for steps, look for statements. Right, we don't look at the model because model is just anyone can draw. But does it really tell you what are the steps that you can write out? So it doesn't really tell you the steps. Everyone can draw the model, but we want to see your thought process, Okay, and your thought process is reflected in your statements. That's why we give the marks for your statements, because the statements reflect your thinking process. Okay, understand? Okay, now, so my child's school teachers don't focus on model drawing. Then how do I help my child? Okay, now in schools, different teachers have different experience. Some teachers, they are competent, they know how to draw model because they always draw model. Others, they are younger, they are newer, so they may not be able to teach the model drawing very in a large way. So everyone has different kinds of experience with different kinds of teachers. So what do you do? Now, that's why I'm here to fill in the gap. Okay, I'm here to help as many students, right, to understand how to draw the model. And then when they go back to schools, they understand how to solve their problem. And I'm also helping the school teachers in a certain way. MOE doesn't pay me to do this, but I see a need. I see a gap, right? And I want to fill that gap because why do I want to fill the gap? Because it's a bit heartbroken. I mean, it's a bit, I feel a bit disappointed when I see my students, they draw the model and it's so basic, right? And they can't solve the problem. So I want to change all that. I want them to know that if you can draw the model, you can get the marks easily. So by doing this, it also helps the school teachers to focus more on what? Focus more on the weaker students. So my role is to fill in the gap, right? What the schools can't do because of lack of time, then I will try to do it, right? So that it's a win-win for everybody. Okay. All right. Now, so let's go to the next one. Okay. So the workshop. Now, the workshop is ongoing. This is not the only workshop. It's going to be continuous throughout the year, right? So if you can't attend this workshop, you can always wait for the next one, right? So don't worry, because my focus is to train the adults, train the students, as many as possible, so that you can take what you learn and then just go and teach your students. All right, so the workshop is on the 8th, 9th, and 10th November, which is tomorrow, Monday to Wednesday. Okay, but if it's a bit too last minute, it's all right. All right, you can always wait for the next one. You need to join my Facebook group to be updated on the workshops you can attend. Okay, time is 7:30 to 9 p.m. Right, it's at night, 1.5 hours. We might end a bit later. We might end a little, we might end a bit later lah. So depending on how slow I am, because I like to talk a lot. Okay, now at the venue, no venue is in your house because you are going to conduct Zoom lesson. It will be like a Zoom workshop, and the maximum size is 10. And adult learners is for adult learners, mainly for adult learners. So how about primary students? Well, they can still come along, but I want to really focus on the adult learners, especially school teachers, especially tutors, because it's fun. It's fun to teach them. Not that it's not fun to teach the students, but I've been teaching students for many years already. And I used to conduct workshop for adults quite some time back, and it's fun to teach the adults. So if you have child who is coming, any kids who are coming for this workshop, I will encourage the adult or maybe you, right, one of you to be around, right, to be present so that you can guide them, because some of the things that I'm saying, they are adult stuff. Okay, they are adult stuff. So the primary 3 students may not understand. Yeah. Okay. So I will like the adults to come as well, right? To understand, to learn. Okay, to learn. Okay. Now the workshop fee is $180 per person for 3 days, right? 3 days. Okay. Now why $180? Okay. Now, why cannot be lower? Of course, and why cannot be more expensive? Now, I set this fee at a very affordable price. And this workshop is not tuition service. It's not like a tutoring service that I give to your children or your students. It's a skills, it's a value added workshop where I impart my skills, my knowledge, right? And hopefully, at the end of the workshop, you really you understand, right? You understand and you are convinced, oh, it's actually quite easy to learn model drawing. And that is a skill that I have given you. And it's priceless lah. No, the skills I give to you is priceless. So this $180 is actually not much because I'm giving you a skill, a particular set of skills that you can use to go and teach your students as well. All right. Why I don't sell it more expensive? Because I want to make it affordable, right? Affordable for everyone. Okay, right. Okay, next one. Now, how do you register? How do you make payment? If you are interested, just contact me at my number and I will let you know whether there's a vacancy. And if there's a vacancy, what happened? I will just send you my bank account details, and then you make your payment. Once I receive the payment, I will send you a Zoom link, passcode, and a Google link to download the workshop notes. Okay, the workshop notes. So there'll be 3 days of notes. Okay, 3 days, 3 nights. The workshops are conducted during the night time. So there'll be 3 nights of lesson materials. Okay, so just contact me and I will tell you what to do lah. It's very simple. Nothing very hard about the process to register. Okay, now let's go to the next one. All right, now after the workshop, I also conduct post-workshop training. This one, adults can come as well. Your children can come as well. So there'll be 8 lessons. And it's 1 hour per lesson. Is it optional? Yes, optional. Okay. But to come for this lesson, it is a must to attend the workshop because you need to know the knowledge, what you have gained, what you have learned to apply in the practical lessons. Okay, now there was a parent that asked me whether is it okay to just attend 4 lessons, 2 lessons, 3 lessons. I think it's fine. All right, I'm very flexible with all this. So you want to attend 1 lesson and you don't like it, all right, then don't come for the other lessons lah. They just pay for 1 lesson. Yeah, so it's up to you how many lessons you want to attend. So everything is all very flexible. So 1 lesson is $40, right? And there'll be 8 lessons. And why do I have this post-workshop training? Because workshop is just head knowledge, right? You're just learning in your head, right? You don't really apply yet. So when you come to after the workshop, what must you do if you don't apply? Then you forget, right? So the practical lesson is to allow you to apply what you learn. And then hopefully after you finish all the practical lesson, you continue to apply. Because if you don't continue to apply, then gone already lah. You wasted your money. Yeah, so you have to apply. Any problem you see, draw. And that's how I became competent, right? That's how I became competent in my model drawing, right? When I first started off, my model was basic. Like when I was a school teacher, I used model, but it was basic, like what the schools are doing, what they are teaching. Very basic for primary 3 and primary 4. And then when it comes to harder problems, we freak out. I don't know how to draw already. So the primary school teachers like myself, just freak out lah. Then we do our own way of solving. But once I came out to teach as a private tutor, it's kind of different. Right? There's a lot of time for me to solve, to think about how to draw. Yeah. So the more I start to draw, and then what happened? It becomes better and better. It evolved. The model drawing evolved to something that is, wow, it's like a very comprehensive program. The model drawing is actually like it's like a core method, right? Not just basic drawing, but more than just that. So you need to practice, right? Practice. And when you practice, you will be surprised that you can draw out very, very hard problems. Yeah. Okay, so this is the practical lessons. So again, optional, not compulsory. So if you're coming for the workshop, you don't want to come for the practical lesson, is fine. You want to come for 1 lesson, also can. Okay, right? Okay, now, so next one. And that's the end of our preview. Okay. All right, so QA session. All right, so I'm going to stop the recording for now because you are going to ask questions, right? So we're going to stop the recording so that when the public hear your voice, they won't hear your voices lah because there'll be a lot of interaction going on now. Okay, so I will stop the recording and this video will be shared with everybody so that they can understand what the preview is all about. All right. Okay, so let me just end the recording before we start our QA session.